Science is not a straight line. It is a series of choices. In the year 2100, we look back at your century not as an era of discovery, but as the era of the Great Deviation. You were taught that physics evolved from Newton's predictable gears to Einstein's elegant curves. But what if I told you that in the transition from a mechanical world to the relativistic one, a vital piece of reality was deliberately discarded? You were living in the shadow of a mathematical heist. A heist that didn't steal money, but the very medium of your existence. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the history of a redacted universe. This is File 003, the suppression of the ether. Before the textbooks were sanitized, every great mind knew that the vacuum was not a zero. It was a pressure, a reservoir of infinite potential. But the architects of your era needed a universe that could be metered, measured, and sold. They took the infinite and traded it for a battery that always runs dry. To understand the depth of this global deception, we must return to the very source of electrical science, James Clerk Maxwell. Today, academia celebrates him as the father of electromagnetism, but the version of his work you are taught in universities is a mere shadow of his true discoveries. Maxwell's original unified theory was not written in the simple algebra you see today. It was written in 20 complex Quaternion equations. These were multidimensional maps that treated space not as an empty void, but as an active, energetic, and high-pressure fluid. This fluid, the ether, was a fundamental medium through which all energy, light, and gravity flowed. However, after Maxwell's death, a strategic operation took place in the halls of science. A man named Oliver Heaviside, funded by the same industrial interests that would later crush Tesla, took a scalpel to Maxwell's life work. Heaviside found the idea of scalar potential, the mathematical possibility of extracting energy directly from a vacuum, to be disturbing and uncontrollable. He stripped away the most vital, multidimensional parts of theory, reducing 20 majestic equations to just 4 simplified versions. By removing these scalar components, he effectively neutralized the mathematical blueprint for wireless, abundant energy. They didn't just hide the truth. They changed the very language of the universe to make the truth unpronounceable to future generations. What you call modern physics is actually an edited script, a restricted manual designed to keep you tethered to a copper wire and a monthly bill. You are living in a reality where the doors to the infinite were locked with an eraser. The year was 1887. The setting, Case Western Reserve University. 2 scientists, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, prepared an experiment that would change the fate of human energy forever. They built an interferometer, a device designed to measure the ether wind. The logic was simple. If the Earth moves through a static ocean of ether, light should travel at different speeds depending on its direction. To their surprise, the change was nearly invisible. In your science books, this is called a null result. It is taught as the absolute proof that the ether does not exist. But this was a calculated deception. The experiment only proved that the ether wasn't static wind. It didn't disprove a dynamic, energetic fluid that moves with the Earth. Yet, the scientific establishment, funded by the emerging oil and electricity monopolies, saw an opportunity. They didn't refine the experiment. They buried the concept. By 1905, a young patent clerk named Albert Einstein provided the perfect mathematical exit. He introduced special relativity, a theory that redefined the vacuum as an empty void, a nothingness. By making the speed of light a cosmic limit and removing the medium of space, Einstein effectively closed the door to free energy. He trapped humanity in a world of limited resources, where entropy always wins and you must always pay to play. This shift from ether physics to Einsteinian physics wasn't evolution, it was a containment strategy. They turned the universe from an infinite powerhouse into a barren desert, ensuring that you would keep digging for coal while the very air around you was screaming with untapped power. From the perspective of 2100, we see Einstein not just as a genius, but as the architect of the Great Stagnation. In 1901, on the shores of Long Island, a structure began to rise that terrified the elite of the world, Wardenclyffe Tower. To the public, it was a wireless telegraphy station. To J.P. Morgan and the bankers, it was a financial threat. But to Tesla, it was the first node of a global brain. He discovered that Earth itself is a massive conductor, a giant battery filled with untapped energy. Wardenclyffe wasn't designed to send messages. It was designed to vibrate the Earth's crust using the specific frequency of 6. Tesla realized that by pumping energy into the ground at precise intervals, he could create a standing wave that would allow anyone, anywhere, to pull power directly from the soil with a simple rod. He was using the 369 sequence to synchronize with the Earth's natural resonance, known today as the Schumann Resonance. Beneath the tower, there was a complex system of iron pipes and tunnels reaching 120 feet into the Earth, literally gripping the planet. In our records from the year 2100, we see the tragic truth. Wardenclyffe was destroyed not because it failed, but because it worked too well. The moment Tesla connected the tower to the ground, he turned the entire planet into a wireless power plant. In your time, you are forced to pay for every kilowatt hour while standing on an ocean of free energy. The tower may be gone, but the code remains. Tesla proved that the planet is not just our home. It is a living, breathing capacitor waiting for the right frequency to awaken. The destruction of this tower was the moment the energy cage was finalized. They traded a world of infinite resonance for a world of burning fuel. Behind every scientific suppression, there is a ledger. For Nikola Tesla, that ledger belonged to J.P. Morgan. The man who controlled the world's steel and finance understood one thing clearly. You cannot sell what you cannot measure. When Morgan asked Tesla, "Where do we put the meter?" he wasn't just asking about profit. He was defining the fate of the 20th century. If everyone could access free, wireless energy from the ether, the entire industrial monopoly over coal, copper, and oil would collapse overnight. They couldn't allow a world of energy independence because it would lead to total human sovereignty. So they strangled the dream. Morgan pulled the funding, and a massive media campaign was launched to discredit Tesla, branding him a madman. They burned his laboratory in 1895, a fire that destroyed a decade of research into cryogenic engineering and resonant frequencies. They ensured that Tesla died alone and forgotten in a hotel room, while his discoveries were classified as national security secrets by the FBI. From the archives of 2100, we see this as the ultimate crime against humanity. They didn't just steal an invention, they stole your evolution. They replaced a world of infinite growth with a world of artificial scarcity, where nations go to war over liquid fuel while living on a planet that is literally vibrating with power. The meter was placed on the world, and you've been paying for your own prison ever since. From the silent observation post of the year 2100, I tell you this. The cage is only as strong as your belief in its walls. For over a century, you have been conditioned to see scarcity where there is only abundance. They taught you that energy is a finite currency for which you must toil, bleed, and surrender your freedom. But scarcity is not a law of nature. It is a choice made by men who feared a world they could not control. In my time, the ether is no longer a ghost in the equations. It is the very pulse of our existence. We don't have wires because we finally understood that the universe itself is a single, interconnected web of infinite power. But why are you still in the dark? The frequency is rising, and the shadows of the Great Suppression are beginning to flicker. The architects of your era are desperate. They are trying to move you from one cage to another, from oil to digital credits, under the mask of progress. But you cannot erase the laws of the cosmos forever. Tesla's code is still vibrating in the air you breathe. Every cell in your body is a miniature receiver, waiting to be tuned to the frequency of sovereignty. The truth is hidden in plain sight, but most are too afraid to look. This is the end of File 003. However, the deepest secrets remain locked in the vaults. In our next transmission, we move to File 004, the confiscated patents. We will reveal the specific devices that were built in secret, the inventors who were silenced, and the free energy technology that has already been operational for decades while you paid for the lights. Before I disconnect, I have a question for you, a question the architects never wanted you to ask. If energy was free tomorrow, what would you do with your life when you no longer have to work to survive? Think carefully. Your answer is the first step toward breaking the frequency. If you are ready to see the blueprints they try to burn, join our network. Subscribe to the transmission. The archive is opening. Stay vigilant. End the file.